Please be seated. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs. Welcome to the 2017 investiture ceremony for the Order of Prince Edward Island. Their honors, H. Frank Lewis and Mrs. Dorothy Lewis, Chief Justice David Jenkins, Premier Wade McLaughlin, the Honorable Buck Watts, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, and other distinguished guests. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gerard Greenan, and I'm pleased to be the chair of the Order of Prince Edward Island Advisory Council. I would like to invite you to please stand for the invocation from the Reverend Ian Glass and Mi'kmaq prayer by Elder Truly Levi, Abegwit First Nation.
Let us take a moment and pause and ask God's blessing on the proceedings of this evening. Let us pray. God of all peoples, whose Spirit is constantly working among us, we come together this evening to celebrate the community and social development achievement of some of your servants in this province. We would invoke now your presence at this Order of Prince Edward Island investiture ceremony as we honor these three new members this evening. Oh God, help us to fully realize the opportunities and responsibilities you have placed upon each one of us to positively influence the society in which we live. Our Father, give us a voice to praise your goodness in this land and a will to serve you now and always. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Ogizok, get me dead, my good lumps as a gill, guess I'll lucky little go. Also, my zootniscam, you got quavin. Ilabada dandalugodiak is oatniscam. No colligado would have been Pantarvin, near Wallab. Kilus Amichigal, the Nadel, Chuagamidan. Also, my zootniscam, Bisqua, Ilabada dandalugodiak. Ilabada in tin, lumps at Tandes, your game with a when I look to dandalugodiak. Oh, Creator. We ask that you join us in this gathering. Come and join our circle. We pray that you open the four directions and ask that you send in the good spirits that you put in each direction to join us tonight, Creator. I ask that you bless each and every one of us. Bless our minds, that we have good thoughts. Bless our eyes to see the beauty. Bless our hands that our medicines be good. And also bless our hearts so we make our decisions from there. Thank you, Creator, for another beautiful day. And thank you for this wonderful gathering. Umsat Nogama. Hey.
You may be seated. Before we begin the official ceremony, I would like to acknowledge the presence of the members of the Order of PEI Advisory Council that are with us tonight. Chief Justice David Jenkins, UPI President Dr. Alizi, Clerk of the Executive Council Paul Ledwell, Jackie McKay, and we have a number of committee members who were not able to attend, and they are Mr. Doug LeBlanc, Ms. Debbie Buchanan, Ms. Diane Porter, and Mr. Brian Anir. The Order of Prince Edward Island is the highest honor the province can bestow. It gives the public recognition to individuals, islanders, whose efforts and accomplishments have been exemplary. There are many citizens who make remarkable contributions to the social, economic, and cultural life of our province and its people, and the Order of Prince Edward Island is a unique opportunity to honor them. I would now invite His Honor, the Chancellor of the Order of Prince Edward Island, and the Lieutenant Governor of Prince Edward Island, H. Frank Lewis, to please come forward and give us his remarks.
Thank you, Gerard. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to recognize that this event is taking place on traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. Firstly, let me introduce the Lieutenant Governor Designate, Antoinette Perry. Where are you, Antoinette? Stand up, we'll give you a hand. That's the next Frank Lewis right there. Great to see you. And we look forward to an orderly transition, and we've already spent some time at it, and it'll be great to see you in this, certainly, place of honor. Honorable Premier Wade McLaughlin, Chief Justice David Jenkins, Cabinet members and MLAs all, if that way I don't miss anybody, because they wouldn't allow me out here to see who's here prior to, so. Mayor Clifford Lees, good to see you. Chair and members of the Order of PEI, Advisory Committee, UPEI President Dalla. Secretary to the Order of Prince Edward Island, Joanne Holden, our 2017 honorees, your family and friends, members of the Order of PEI, Mesdames et Messieurs. Dorothy and I are again honored to welcome you to Government House National Historic Site. This is certainly one of the highlights of our year when we honor the best of our Prince Edward Island citizens, our friends, neighbors, and leaders. And what leadership we have to recognize this evening. Political and societal leadership, leadership in heritage, culture, and preservation, and leadership in education. These designations also represent community leadership, leading by example, firm convictions to uphold high ideals, the testament to the value of hard work, the investment in giving time to people around you, and for one of you in particular, the warmth and hospitality of a finely crafted gin and tonic, which I never had one, by the way. But I might when I leave office. Catherine Callbeck, Catherine Hennessy, and James Jimmy McCauley, you have given a lifetime to this province in special, unique ways, and we, your friends, neighbors, and fellow islanders, have been richly rewarded. With each of you, we say without hesitation or reserve that your contributions and achievements have been known for decades and will be felt for centuries. You have received recognition from far and wide, and your names and deeds are etched permanently in the pages of history. Your home province now awards you its highest honor, and speaking both personally and as Lieutenant Governor, I could not be happier for us, for you, and for PEI. As I have been privileged and proud to say, and do so again, congratulations on behalf of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth to the 2017 Order of Prince Edward Island recipients, Catherine Callbeck, Catherine Hennessy, and James McCauley. Merci beaucoup, tout le monde.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, I invite the Premier of Prince Edward Island, the Honourable H. Wade McLaughlin, to give us his remarks.
Thank you, Gerard. Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir tout le monde. Quay. Lieutenant Governor and Chancellor of the Order of Prince Edward Island, H. Frank Lewis and Mrs. Dorothy Lewis, Madame la Lieutenant Gouverneur désignée, Chief Justice, Speaker, Mayor, I've got a lot of distinguished people with us this evening. Everyone here for a good reason. Welcome everyone, and just in case no one else recognizes them, I think we should also recognize the Crows. They're taking an active part in this evening's event. Chair Gerard Greenan and the members of the Advisory Council of the Order of Prince Edward Island, and especially the recipients of the Order of Prince Edward Island for 2017, and your families and friends who join you this evening, and honoured guests. Welcome everyone. Before we get down to the business of the Order of PEI, may I take a moment, and I'm sure everyone joins me in recognizing their honours, Lieutenant Governor Frank Lewis and Dorothy Lewis, for their service to the people of Prince Edward Island, and for all of the ways that you've served our province with dignity during the more than 6 years that you've been in this residence and covered every square inch of our province and served us well. And I know we wish you much success and health in the future. Thank you. Merci. Now, we'll likely do that a few more times. We've got several weeks to go, and in fact, His Honour and I were together at a hockey game last night, so I'm sure that there's much to do in the cause and in the good work that you continue to do. Tonight, it's my pleasure, on behalf of Prince Edward Islanders, to recognise the 3 individuals who will be invested to the Order of Prince Edward Island for 2017. Catherine Colbeck, Catherine Hennessy, and James Clement Macaulay, Jimmy, are indeed deserving of the highest honour that Prince Edward Island can give to one of our citizens. This is the 21st year that a select group of Islanders has been honoured for contributions to the social, economic, and cultural life of our island and our communities and people. This year's 3 Order of Prince Edward Island inductees were chosen from among 53 worthy nominees, and I congratulate and thank the members of the Advisory Committee for your work of discernment and collaboration in bringing forward these 3 very deserving people. Catherine Colbeck of Central Baddeck has contributed to Prince Edward Island and to Canada as a political, business, and community leader. She's a woman of vision and determination who is always up for a challenge, and she has excelled as a business leader and as a stateswoman. Through passion and personal conviction, Catherine Hennessy of Charlottetown has been a champion for Prince Edward Island's heritage and culture for decades. Catherine continues to work to preserve our province's heritage, and she's an inspiration to historians, to women, and to everyone in our province. And I know Catherine, if she were speaking this evening, would say, well, you better mention love. That's always part of Catherine's got a call to action. And Jimmy Macaulay, St. Peter's Bay, is an outstanding contributor and has been for the improvement of our provincial community and, of course, his home community as an educator, leader, visionary, mentor, and an advocate for local communities throughout our province. He's a supreme volunteer whose tireless work has forged amalgamation and the building of community in his church, has brought about change in and for local communities, and extends to improvements in services for veterans. The contributions to island life made by the three of you are much more significant than this award, or certainly than my words could ever recognize. But let me make three further observations that extend to all three of you. I think I'm right, Jimmy, that the report cards in the schools at one time had a category called Works Well with Others. And I would say that, of course, is an outstanding feature of all three of you, and how you've made progress and built collaborations for our province. The other thing, of course, and it's evident here in the room tonight, is that you've been supported by and worked hard to build a network of family and friends and community, and it's been to the great benefit of all of us. The third, and I can speak directly to this, is that each of you rarely misses an opportunity to ask for something. And you're good at it, you know. That's a particular version of Works Well with Others, and I thank you for that. And our province has benefited from it. Our province rightly calls itself a mighty island, and it's through your work and the work of great volunteers and community builders and advocates, so well represented here tonight, that indeed we've come to the point where we have an uncontested claim to be mighty, and that includes the permission to continue to surprise ourselves, and I expect that each of the three of you will continue to do that. And that includes, of course, the work that's involved in getting up the next morning and moving things further ahead, and I know that you'll continue to do that. In effect, we can say that our three inductees represent the very best of our province and what we aspire to achieve for each of us, and that you add to our strength and energy and how we continue to build a brighter future for all of us. Donc, félicitations nos trois inductés de ce soir à l'ordre de l'Éduc Prince-Édouard. On vous remercie sincèrement de tout ce que vous avez fait pour l'avancement et l'amélioration de nos communautés et notre province. Thank you again to those who've made the nominations, to the advisory committee, and to those who are here in the room to join in the circle of support and celebration. And indeed, we know that's representative of our entire province. Thank you. Merci. Udale.
Thank you, Premier. We will now proceed with the investiture of the new members of the Order of Prince Edward Island for 2017. I would now like to invite to the podium Ms. Marion Murphy to introduce our first inductee of the evening. Ms. Murphy.
Good evening, all. Your Honors, and distinguished Islanders, one and all. How do I introduce a woman who everyone knows on Prince Edward Island? By first name, Indeed, most people in Canada know who Catherine Colbeck is and that for which she stands. Let me begin where she began. Central Baddeck was the place to shop for things not available in our country stores. Colbeck's store could provide us with anything from A to Z in furniture, appliances, and parts without going all the way, in those days, to Charlottetown or Summerside. And so Catherine learned at an early age to be business savvy. This early training led her to the experiences of university life and teaching, attributes that served her well in her future political life. She has been able to speak of what she has lived. Her early entry into politics in the Alex Campbell government, at a time when change and advancement were happening, prepared her for the leading roles to come. A foray back into business, helping with change and advancement in her family business, further prepared Catherine for the leadership role she accepted on behalf of Islanders and Canadians. I was privileged and honored to be her running mate in the 1993 election campaign. Dual ridings were still how we governed, and so we walked and drove the breadth and length of First Queens. A question Catherine often asked was, how can we honor people? In one of those conversations, we talked about the volunteer firefighters. Shortly after becoming Premier, she initiated a series of awards for firefighters. Indeed, the award we recognize this evening was birthed under Catherine's guidance and leadership. A woman of many firsts and seconds, always a leader. Second woman to be elected to the PEI legislature. First female Minister of Health and Social Services. First woman from Malpeque to be elected to the House of Commons. First woman in Canada to be elected Premier. And the list goes on. After all this, she was called to the Senate, and we all know of her many efforts on behalf of all Canadians while there. Catherine has been recognized by so many organizations to which she gave her time and talent. Among her recognitions are as one of Canada's 100 most powerful women and being named to the Order of Canada. It would take pages to list her accomplishments and honors. Her most ardent concerns have been for children and people in need, always reaching out to charitable and public service needs at all levels, from chances to the disabled, from universities to hospitals, to organizations and groups devoted to the betterment of society. She has given her all. Catherine has so many attributes, some of which I will share with you. I describe her as a woman of vision, filled with determination, lasting perseverance, deeply seated courage, eager and willing, filled with passion, aiming for excellence, on top of things, a tireless worker, a trusting friend, a power to behold, an encyclopedia of ideas, a seeker of right, a woman of principle, a businesswoman, a stateswoman, always up for a challenge, a Canadian citizen par excellence, an Islander par excellence. Integrity and a willingness to do herself what she asks of others, always setting a high standard, a positive example, and doing what is right are what Catherine Colbeck is all about. For all these reasons, and as a friend, I am honored to have nominated Catherine Colbeck to receive the Order of Prince Edward Island. And I congratulate you, Catherine, and I congratulate Catherine and Jimmy as well. Thank you all.
Thank you, Marion. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome our first inductee, the Honorable Catherine Colbeck, as the 2017 recipient of the Order of Prince Edward Island.
Excellent.
Congratulations, Senator Colbeck. I would now invite Ms. Sarah Underwood to come forward and present our next inductee.
Your Honours, Order of Prince Edward Island recipients, Premier Wade McLaughlin, Mayor Clifford Lee, distinguished guests, I think that covers everybody. Oh, and ladies and gentlemen, if any of you aren't feeling particularly distinguished. I first met Catherine Hennessy in 1990 when I was a reporter for The Guardian. She struck me at the time as a woman who knew what needed to be done and was more than prepared to do it. Almost 30 years later, she remains as committed to her causes. When I realized that Catherine did not yet have an Order of the Prince Edward Island, I was delighted to nominate her. And I'm delighted tonight to be here with her, to see her receive this, the highest honor the island can bestow upon a citizen. Catherine has been the recipient of many honors over the years, and deservedly so. She has been unwavering in her dedication to preserving and protecting the heritage of this province. She has never shied away from a battle and has initiated more than one or two. Although Catherine has raised the ire of more than one developer, many of them, albeit begrudgingly, acknowledge her tenacity and her belief in the value of the province's built heritage, landscapes, and streetscapes. Her motivation is not public recognition or accolades, nor is it to be a burr in the saddle of progress, although I'm sure she always enjoys just that. Rather, she does these things purely and simply because she believes that they are the right thing to do, not just from an historic perspective, but because these houses, churches, trees, parks, even the very skyline of the city and the bells that ring over the neighborhood downtown are an important component of what makes us islanders. I've had the pleasure of working on projects with Catherine over the past few years, first on the committee for the 250th anniversary of Samuel Holland's map of Prince Edward Island, and then again when we were collecting information and images related to the activities in what is now the Florence Simmons Performance Hall at Holland College. Catherine, who I'm sure never throws away a single scrap of paper, was able to provide us with a treasure trove of music programs from various artists who performed in the room when it was the auditorium of the Prince of Wales College. Our conversations can be literal, lateral, and sometimes deliciously salacious, but they're never boring. Her sharp sense of humor, her lively mind, and her inexhaustible enthusiasm make her a delightful companion, regardless of whether it's during the workday or over a stiff gin and tonic. I think next I'm approaching the distilleries to see if somebody wants to do a special gin in your name. As Catherine receives this honor tonight, she's in the middle of another life-changing event, moving out of her house on Sydney Street. Moving inevitably causes stress, but she assured me on the phone yesterday that this evening was all about having fun. And regardless of the gravity of the work Catherine undertakes, she knows how to have fun while she's doing it. For the sake of the heritage of the city and of the province, we should all take a leaf from her book. Respect your heritage, fight for what you believe in, and always, always have fun along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome our next inductee, Ms. Catherine Hennessy, as a recipient of the 2017 Order of Prince Edward Island. Congratulations, Catherine. I would now like to invite Ms. Susan Anderson to please come forward and present our next inductee.
Your Honors, the Honorable H. Frank Lewis, Lieutenant Governor of Prince Edward Island and Chancellor of the Order of Prince Edward Island, and Mrs. Dorothy Lewis, the Honorable H. Wade McLaughlin, Premier Prince Edward Island, the Honorable David Jenkins, Chief Justice of Prince Edward Island, the Honorable Francis Buck Watts, Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, recipients of the Order of PEI, Chair Gerard Green, and members of the Order of the Prince Edward Island Advisory Committee, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I had the immense pleasure of nominating James Clement Macaulay for the Order of Prince Edward Island. He is, and always has been, a leader in our community of St. Peter's, in the province of Prince Edward Island, and beyond. Jim's lifelong passion has been education. He was a teacher and later principal at Morel Regional High School from 1962 to 1996. He was known to have been disrupted from teaching class to attend to an administrative matter, then return to his class and complete the sentence from the point of interruption, a skill that never ceased to amaze students. To this day, he takes great pride in the teachers, staff, and students of Morel Regional High School, and he celebrates their every achievement. Most conversations with Jim include references to his years in the school system, so it is evident that his vast experience in the field of education continues to impact his daily living. Following retirement, Jim became involved in the Prince Edward Island Retired Teachers Association, and subsequently in the national organization, the Canadian Association of Retired Teachers, of which he is currently serving as the vice president and has been working diligently to improve the lives of retired teachers in Canada. Jim continues teaching as he interacts with former students and staff in the re-imaging of St. Peter's through his long-term involvement with the St. Peter's Area Development Corporation. Initially, the outcome of a weekend session on the impact of national parks on local communities upon creation of the PEI National Park Adjunct in Greenwich. The St. Peter's and Area Planning Group later became the St. Peter's Area Development Corporation. With Jim as president, the corporation has directed the development of the St. Peter's Landing retail shops, St. Peter's Courthouse Theatre at Quigley Memorial Hall, the re-imaging and renovation of the former St. Peter's Consolidated School, improvements to the park and rink, realignment of both major intersections in the community to enhance safety to the traveling public, revitalization of the St. Peter's Senior Citizens Circle Club, construction of a pedestrian bridge joining the north and south sides of the bay, which has served to enhance cyclists' experiences on the Confederation Trail, lighting, signage, and beautification of community properties, and many, many more endeavors. Jim is constantly proposing ideas for for projects he conceives of while on his daily walks. Following a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, Jim decided to forgo insulin injections by improving his lifestyle to maintain his health. He began a walking regime early every morning and has faithfully continued walking at least 20,000 steps every day since diagnosis. He has recently admitted to walking on a treadmill rather than on the main highway and the Confederation Trail when the weather is inclement, or what others would refer to as blizzard conditions. Jim is well known for his glossary of unique sayings, to which anyone who has been in his company can attest. That is, if and only if he will repeat them, and much more slowly than the original utterance. He has several favorite sayings that he uses regularly to the great amusement of his audiences. St. Peter's Consolidated School ceased operations as an academic institution in 2009. While other small schools that suffered the same fate were demolished, Jim McCauley saw the closure as an opportunity for growth and development within the community, and he created a plan to repurpose the facility. The former school is now a flourishing business center that has seen the creation of 14 full-time positions and the availability of state-of-the-art meeting facilities in the community that have been welcomed with enthusiasm. The facility serves as an example of what can become of a school that can no longer maintain sufficient enrollment to remain a viable educational facility. The success of this venture is a great source of pride for Jim. In addition to his role in the St. Peter's Area Development Corporation, Jim has been involved in many and varied groups. He has played many leadership roles in and is an active member of St. Peter's Roman Catholic Church, now one of 3 churches in the parish of St. Teresa of the Little Flower in the Diocese of Charlottetown. While a student at St. Dunstan's University, Mr. McCauley served as manager of sports teams. As an alumnus, he served on the St. Dunstan's University Board of Governors for 14 years. As a board member, a member of various committees, and board chair, where in 1969 he was the architect of a new philosophy for the board that was eventually implemented and still remains in 2017. He also had the foresight to direct consolidation of investment portfolios that had maximized returns and have enabled the Board of Governors to maintain operations and to indeed remain prosperous through worldwide economic downturns. Jim is actively involved in the Royal Canadian Legion, locally, provincially, and nationally. He leads the annual Remembrance Day service in Morel and hosts an annual dinner attended by many in the extended community in commemoration of those who served. Mr. McCauley has been a counselor to members of Alcoholics Anonymous and has been the catalyst to sobriety and a major support for many who have suffered from the disease. While Jim has been instrumental in the development in St. Peter's, he has also assisted residents of other communities in making their dreams become reality. As a result of Jim's project management skills, the award-winning and world-renowned 18-hole championship golf course, the Links at Crowbush Cove, was brought to fruition. Mr. McCauley introduced a driver's education program for students while he was principal of Morel Regional High School. In later years, he was instrumental in establishing a CAP site in Morel, and he also fostered the development of an adult education program in that community. Mr. McCauley is a mentor to former students, their children and grandchildren, preparing them for future leadership roles. It is often said that when Jim no longer is fulfilling the many roles he has for so many years, St. Peter's would need at least 6 people to replace him. Few have the capacity to lead in so many and varied facets of life that Jim has managed and successfully achieved with seemingly little effort throughout his adulthood. Family is of the utmost importance to Jim. During his career and in retirement, he has had the support of his loving wife, Loretta MacDonald, as well as that of his children, Ronnie, Andrew, Marion, and Mary Catherine, and their families. He is also very close to his 2 brothers, Alex and Lawrence, and his twin sisters, Mary and Gloria, and their families, many of whom are in attendance here this evening. Extended family is also important to Mr. McCauley. My dad was Jim's cousin. Dad had initiated the process of nominating Jim for the Order of Prince Edward Island prior to his untimely death in 2010. We completed the nomination and submitted on behalf of Dad, but Jim was not selected for the award that year. Now, 7 years after the first nomination, Jim is receiving this tremendous honor, and I know Dad would be absolutely thrilled. It is incredibly gratifying to witness Jim being inducted into the Order of Prince Edward Island this evening. Jim is a true Islander and a proud Canadian who has enriched our province with his wisdom, fortitude, and dogged determination to improve this wonderful province we call home. He is most worthy of this public recognition of his tireless efforts and accomplishments, and he is the epitome of an islander who deserves the highest honor the province can bestow.
Thank you, Susan. It gives me great pleasure to welcome our next inductee, Mr. James Clement Macaulay, as a worthy recipient of the 2017 Order of Prince Edward Island. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Order of PEI Advisory Council, I would like to congratulate all of tonight's recipients of the 2017 Order of Prince Edward Island. Please give them a rounding sound of applause. Photos of all recipients will be taken following the ceremony. This brings a close to the official part of this evening's ceremony. Thank you all for attending, and I want to thank Jacqueline Sorensen Young for providing the music beforehand. Please join us following the ceremony for the Premier's reception here in the main foyer, and would you please stand for the departure of their honors.